American Top 40.
Quincy Jones featuring James Ingram, debuting at number 38 with Just Once.
American Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem. Here's the fourth Top 40 hit for a man who never seems to get solo billing. His first two Top 40s, Just Once and 100 Ways, were with Quincy Jones. His number one smash last year, Baby Come to Me, was a duet with Patty Austin. And now his first pop hit single from his first solo album is a duet with former Doobie brother Michael McDonald. Here he is, James Ingram with Michael McDonald, climbing a notch to number 19 with Yamo Be There.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem. These are the hottest hits in the USA. Now, what would you do if you were offered a scholarship to go to college free of charge? Well, as an unknown teenager, singer James Ingram had that chance, and he turned it down. Here's why. When he was growing up in Akron, Ohio, James used to hang out with a pal named Frank, the fastest runner in high school. James and Frank would pull mischievous little pranks on people and run away to escape punishment. James says he once ran so fast, he actually beat Frank. That impressed Frank so much that he talked young James Ingram into trying out for the school track team. James made the team, and it turned out he was a natural sprinter. His blinding speed won him a shelf full of medals and trophies. Before long, college scouts began to show up at James' meets to watch him. And finally, two faraway colleges offered him scholarships, a very tempting offer. But James Ingram's first love wasn't running. It was music and the local group he played and sang with. So the scholarship offers created a real dilemma. Should he go away to school on a scholarship or stay home and be true to his music? In the end, James says he really didn't have any choice. He had to continue making music with his group. So he reluctantly turned down the track scholarships. But that didn't mean giving up his chance to pursue an education. James worked hard and paid his own way through a local university. So he was able to pursue both his goals, education and music. That decision proved to be a good one. So far, James Ingram's music has given him 7 top 40 hits. And these days, instead of running around a track, James is sprinting up the chart. This week, he races up 7 notches to number 13 on Casey's Top 40 with his latest Top 40 hit. Here's I Don't Have the Heart.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Mark Elliott, sitting in for Casey Kasem. You know, James Ingram is best known for his tender ballads, but he says early in his career, macho funk was more his style. In fact, James first came to Los Angeles from his hometown of Akron, Ohio, as part of a band called Revelation Funk. And as you might expect from their name, everything about them was funky. From their long hair to their wild clothes to their rough and tumble style of music. Unfortunately, Revelation Funk didn't have much luck getting a record deal, so James looked for work outside the band. One day, he was hired by songwriters Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil to sing demos of their songs, demos which were then submitted to established stars. One of those demos was a ballad called Just Once. And James told us he had about an hour to learn that song and record it, so he didn't pay very much attention to the meaning of the lyrics. He just went in and sang them. But after he'd finished and was listening to the song on playback, James realized how powerful the lyrics were. The song was a dramatic plea for understanding in a troubled relationship, and James says the words nearly brought tears to his eyes. Quote, I was trying to be macho and hold them back, but I knew the song was strong. Well, that experience hooked James on ballads. In fact, that's just about all he sang. His funky music friends thought he'd lost his mind. But James realized that he had a way with slow, emotional songs. And as it turned out, his biggest hits had been ballads. From Somewhere Out There with Linda Ronstadt to Baby Come to Me with Patty Austin. And James' first solo top 40 pop hit is also a ballad.
He got his professional start in music in college with bands like Sharpie and the G-Clefs and Revelation Funk. But these days, he's singing on his own. That's James Ingram, rising a notch to number 5 with I Don't Have the Heart.
American Top 40.
You're listening to American Top 40 with The Shadow, and we have arrived. The place every recording artist dreams of, number 1. And rising to the top this week is a man who spent years earning his place in the spotlight. He was born 40 years ago in Akron, Ohio, and started singing and playing organ in local bands in 9th grade. He kept performing in groups and later married and started a family. In 1973, he packed up the wife and kids and moved to Los Angeles to try to hit the big time. He says, I worked in L.A. for 7 years, raising a family, playing nightclubs, pawning tape recorders to stay afloat when jobs wouldn't come. It was never an easy road, but I never thought for 1 minute that I would not be successful. I had my faith, even though I didn't know exactly how it was going to come. Well, it came in bits and pieces. He played piano and background for the legendary Ray Charles. He went on the road in a band that backed the old 1950s group The Coasters. And he sang on songwriting demo tapes for a music publisher, and that's where he was discovered by Quincy Jones. He then sang on hits like 100 Ways and Just Once from Quincy's albums. He sang on a #1 duet with Patty Austin called Baby Come to Me. He appeared on the biggest-selling single of the past decade, We Are the World, and then there were the hit duets with Linda Ronstadt and Michael McDonald. Well, it's been a long time coming, but now this man has finally hit the top solo. The new #1 song in the USA is I Don't Have the Heart by James Ingram.
Casey's Top 40.
And that means we have a brand new #1 song in the USA on Casey's Top 40, and it's by the only artist to get a Grammy nomination for Best New Artist without releasing a single or an album under his own name. It all happened because of Quincy Jones' 1981 album, The Dude. As a super producer and arranger, Quincy had assembled the album like a jigsaw puzzle. He plugged in a guitar solo here, a saxophone riff there, and vocals all over the place. He used dozens of musicians to create his album. But the one he used the most was a young soul singer from Akron, Ohio. A singer who he hired just to sing a couple of songs. A singer who didn't even have a record contract. On the album, he sang songs like Just Once and 100 Ways, songs that went on to become big top 40 hits. And when it came time for the Grammy nominations, this soulful singer of beautiful ballads got 3 of them. Best Pop Male Vocal, Best R&B Male Vocal, and amazingly, Best New Artist, even though he didn't have a recording contract and he'd never put out a single or an album under his own name. As you can imagine, he got a contract in short order, and he had a string of top 40 hits. But time after time, he shared the spotlight with other singers like Linda Ronstadt, Patty Austin, and Kenny Rogers. This week, he's got the spotlight all to himself, because for the first time, he has a solo hit that's gone all the way to the top. The brand new #1 song in the USA on Casey's Top 40 is the first Top 40 solo hit for James Ingram. I Don't Have the Heart. Hi, this is Casey Kasem. You know, James Ingram has had many different kinds of success. He sang in the group USA for Africa and in duets with stars like Linda Ronstadt. He even had success singing on a hit by someone else, Quincy Jones. But last week, James got his first #1 as a solo artist with his smash I Don't Have the Heart. Will James Ingram get a second week to savor the sensation of solo success? Or will he be knocked out by Pebbles, Vanilla Ice, or even Mariah Carey? To find out, join us this week as we count down the biggest hits in the USA on Casey's Top 40.
Casey's biggest hits.
1 year ago this week, one of the biggest hits in the USA was by James Ingram, a singer discovered by the most famous producer around, a man that James Ingram had never heard of. I'm Casey Kasem. I'll have details and that big hit after this.
Casey's biggest hits.
1 year ago this week, one of the biggest hits in the USA was by James Ingram, a singer discovered by the most famous producer around, a man that James had never heard of. Back when he was an aspiring singer, he had moved from his hometown in Ohio to Hollywood in the hope of making it in the music business. After a lot of auditions and some very hungry times, he landed a job singing demos for a pair of songwriters. It wasn't glamorous work, but it did keep him fed. Well, in time, one of those demos wound up on the tape machine of super producer Quincy Jones. Quincy liked the song, but he loved the singer. He got his phone number and called him up and said, "Hi, I'm Quincy Jones." The young singer said, "Quincy who?" Well, he soon found out as Quincy hired him to sing on some of his records. And 1 year ago this week, that singer's first top 40 solo hit was one of the biggest hits in the USA.
Casey's biggest hits.
2 years ago this week, one of the biggest hits in the USA was I Don't Have the Heart, the very first solo hit for a soul singer whose first 6 hits were all sung with and for others. I'll have details on that big hit after this.
Casey's biggest hits.
2 years ago this week, one of the biggest hits in the USA was the very first solo hit for a soul singer whose first 6 hits were all sung with and for others. This singer moved from Akron, Ohio to Los Angeles in the early 70s. And for nearly 20 years, he worked freelance. He spent his first years as a backup singer for acts like Ray Charles and the Coasters. And then in the early 80s, he got his big break to be the voice on a number of Quincy Jones albums. He was the voice on 2 big hits credited to Quincy Jones, Just Once and 100 Ways. Still, most people had never heard his name. All that changed when he sang big hits like Baby Come to Me with Patty Austin, What About Me by Kenny Rogers and Kim Carnes, Ya Won't Be There with Michael McDonald, and Somewhere Out There with Linda Ronstadt. 2 years ago this week, this singer finally had his first solo smash.
The recent number 1 for James Ingram from Akron, Ohio, slips from 16 to number 24.
Hi, this is James Ingram. Shadoe will be right back with more of Billboard's biggest hits of the week as American Top 40 continues.
The hits from coast to coast.